morning, friends and enemies. We are back to recap day 2 of the NFL draft. We had rounds 2 and 3. They were a fun round, I suppose. Again, a lot more chalk. This has been one of the more chalky drafts of recent memory. And I think for this stream, I'm going to make it a little bit more interactive and grabbing more questions and kind of throw the draft up on the screen and kind of talk through picks rather than going player by player in the fantasy relevant range here. Because I just filmed my updated rookie rankings video, and that will go live in a couple hours on the channel. I also just posted on Twitter my updated rookie rankings. So if you're wondering the way I'm thinking about these rookies, you can go follow me on Twitter at Nick Ercolano, and the image of my top 30 rookies will be right there, as well as the updated rookie rankings video, because I just felt like it became a little bit redundant to do back-to-back videos of the same thing. So let's throw up on the screen what we got going on here. So, I mean, let's just talk about Shedeur Sanders, I guess, right now. The slide is becoming unprecedented. So the way I'm looking at Shedeur right now is I think it's very clearly obvious that teams did not have a grade 1 talent on him, right? Because regardless of the off the field issues, if you have a quarterback that you think is a round 1 graded talent, you're going to take him. Now, this tells me that they're thinking about him as I think he's the second best quarterback in this class. I really do. But that does not mean that he's a round 1 talent. What I think it means is teams were probably looking at him as a second or third round pick. And then once you get there, you're like, he's the backup quarterback for our team. Do we want to deal with all the other shit that comes with it? Because if Shedeur is going to your team and he's the backup, you know the fan base is going to get loud. You know Dion's going to get loud. You know there's a lot of circusry that comes with that type of pick. And I also think there's a lot of teams that were obviously off-put by things that he's done throughout the years, things that have seen him, things that have made him seem, whether it's entitled or show bad sportsmanship. And, you know, there's a level of like confidence and cockiness and everything that comes with a guy like Shedeur Sanders. And I think it's two sides of the same coin. Like, you love that about him, right? You love the fact that he is confident, and you love the fact that he wants to be the face of your franchise and be the best fucking player in the world. But at the same time, it can feel like he takes it overboard with shit. Like, after some of the games, he wouldn't shake the other quarterback's hand because they had like a spat on Twitter. And apparently the interviews that he had with a lot of teams were gross. So that obviously rubbed them the wrong way. And then the problem is, once you get to round like 4, 5, 6, I mean, Shedeur is going to get drafted. Here's what's probably going to happen. Shedeur will likely go to a non-quarterback needy team. If I had to guess, and this will probably look fucking stupid in 3 hours after he gets drafted to like the Browns. If I had to guess, Shedeur goes to a non-quarterback needy team because all the quarterback needy teams have already passed on him multiple times. And at this point, taking him in day 3, you are now saying like he is very far down our depth chart and we want to bring the circus on, which I don't think any of those teams want because clearly they passed on him. So if a non-quarterback needy team were to take him, the second, in my opinion, most talented quarterback in this class, you don't have to deal with the off-the-field stuff because there won't be questions of when does he get on the field. If the Ravens take him, no one's going to be like, Shedeur is going to play over Lamar Jackson. It will never happen. So that concern is automatically smushed immediately, and you get a very talented backup quarterback. So in my opinion, Shedeur will end up going to a team that has a really solid starting quarterback. I mean, maybe it's Dallas with Dak Prescott. Maybe it's Buffalo with Josh Allen. Maybe it is Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. But I think that's what we're looking at right now. The slide is sliding, and it's getting ugly for him, and I feel bad for the kid, to be honest with you. Black Lion, RJ Harvey pick was weird, but I trust Peyton. Yeah, so in the video, like you guys know, I've been pretty vocal about my concerns about RJ Harvey. I think his vision as a pure running back is very questionable. But at the same time, I comped him to like a DeAndre Swift or a Miles Sanders type, where those guys have vision concerns for sure, but put in the right situation behind a good offensive line in a good offense with touchdown upside could have really, really high impact top 12, top 10 years. And I think we just saw RJ Harvey go to like the nut landing spot with Denver. You have a really good offensive line, number 1 pass blocking line in the NFL last year, number 11 in run blocking, with a good quarterback, a good system, a good scheme, a good coach. So as much as I don't like him from a vision standpoint, he's incredibly explosive. They're going to be really creative with how they use him in the same way that Sean Payton was able to do that with Alvin Kamara. So the 205-pound back, do I think he's going to be an every down back? No. Does Sean Payton typically use an every down back? Also no. So I think there's a ton of upside on a play-by-play basis for him, and over the course of the year could string it together. So RJ Harvey for me is right at that like beginning of the second round for a rookie pick. That's kind of where I'm looking at him. I still prefer Kaleb Johnson. I still prefer a lot of these second-round wide receivers. I prefer Tre Harris going to the Chargers over RJ Harvey, but I see the vision here. What else is going on? I thought Houston taking both Iowa State wide receivers was really fucking cool. You know, Jayden Higgins goes 34th overall, and then Jaylen Nowell goes in the third round. I mean, they went from having like a problematic depth chart to a really strong one with a lot of depth. They bring in Jayden Higgins. They got Christian Kirk. They got Jaylen Nowell. Like Jaylen Nowell, I think a lot of people comped him to Christian Kirk, which is funny. And then Jayden Higgins can play on the outside. Does make it a little murky for the target share, though. Like target competition. Who's going to be the real wide receiver two there? Who has the second most targets on the team? Nico's obviously the alpha, meaning neither of the other two can become alphas. So I do think while I like the landing spot and I really like both prospects, I think you got to factor that into their rankings. So for Higgins, he was someone that I thought could have, you know, on paper slid into the 112, the 201, the 202. He's more down in that like 204, 205 range because the target competition does cause a little bit of concern. Let's talk about the Ohio State running backs. You got Judkins, you got TreVeyon Henderson. So to me, I mean, it was pretty obvious the Browns were going to take a running back here. They had two of those first four picks. They take Judkins there. I think they probably see him as more of a three-down back than TreVeyon Henderson. Judkins goes to a backfield that just has Jerome Ford, that has maybe Nick Chubb if they choose to resign him, but very open backfield for opportunity. TreVeyon Henderson, on the other hand, goes to a Patriots team where they extended Ramondre Stevenson last year. Obviously, you know, new personnel, new coaching staff, so very, very different, and they don't really necessarily have ties to Stevenson. So they went out and handpicked Henderson to give Drake May an explosive running mate out of the backfield. I really like both landing spots. I actually preferred Henderson as a prospect, but Judkins goes into a better immediate opportunity. I don't think long-term Henderson's landing spot in New England is really going to affect him. I think you look at the progression of the offense. I mean, Drake May's going to be a beast in year two. They take Will Campbell, 4th overall, so you're shoring up the offensive line. They made a couple additions in free agency for the offensive line, and this is a team that's on the up and up, obviously. So Henderson being involved in that backfield gets me pretty fucking excited, man. I really do like Henderson. And with that, with those two, you have my rankings from yesterday, right? I did all the rookie rankings from the first round of the draft, and we had the 10 rookies that were skill players, and I ranked them in the video yesterday. That's linked in the show notes. And at 6, after Tet McMillan, I had Emeka Egbuka, who went 19th overall to Tampa Bay. Now, in that 6, 7, 8 spot, I have a tier of Ohio State players: Judkins, Henderson, Egbuka. And I really don't want to put a stamp on like one player I like more than the other. There's just a tier of those 3 Ohio State players that I think are all worthy of that mid-first to later-ish first round pick, depending on what your team needs are. If you're in a heavy PPR league versus a half PPR league versus a point per carry league versus I don't know, whatever. You start 4 wide receivers and 2 running backs. You're obviously going to lean wide receiver there. So however your team or your dynasty league is set up, I think lends itself to having a nice little 106 to 108 range spot there. So, yeah, love the landing spots for all the Ohio State players. What's going on in the chat? Kind of pissed only 6 running backs drafted so far. Yeah, unfortunately. I think they're really good, but what else is going on? Please glaze the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, they are doing what the Ravens do. Malachi Starks, Mike Green, like, goodness. Nico, how should we feel about Nico? Nico stonks down. No, definitely not. Nico's the GOAT. Stop. I wish TreVeyon was a Bear. Yeah, so actually, I think really what happened, it felt very evident to me. Like Chicago and Denver were both very much in need of a running back. And they were kind of in that prime position early second round to get it. But then Cleveland and New England both took those guys, Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson. And as soon as that happened, you're like, okay, we can't get our running back. Let's start to move back. The Bears took Luther Burden there, but after that, moved back from out of 41, traded back. Denver had a pick in that ish area, moved back as well. So you're looking at both of these teams that were probably targeting Judkins / Henderson. And because both of those running backs went off the board, both of them moved back in the second round. You could see the Broncos, who like RJ Harvey, obviously, probably settled for RJ Harvey, wishing that they could have had Henderson instead, who's a better prospect, similar play styles, though. How about all the tight ends taken on day 2? Yeah, we had a lot of tight ends. So you got Mason Taylor going to the New York Jets here, 42nd overall. Love that fit for them. I think they just got a really solid receiver out of him. His hands are fucking incredible. Like, arguably the best hands in the class. Like, wide receiver, tight end contingent. Didn't even matter. So you're getting a really sure-handed tight end there. Upside for fantasy with Justin Fields at QB, with Garrett Wilson already there. Remains to be seen, but really like him as a player. Then you've got this kind of string of the other tight ends that we were expecting to go. You got Terrence Ferguson going to the LA Rams, very athletic tight end who McVay's kind of already comped to Tyler Higbee in a way. Really, really liked him. I mean, they made that trade with the Falcons. This was the pick that they made right after that with the capital that they got back from the James Pierce Jr. trade. I think Terrence Ferguson has a chance to become the starter immediately. So I didn't like Ferguson as much as I liked Taylor or Harold Fannin, but the opportunity immediately in an offense that's, a nice offense, a good scheme, obviously a good quarterback, gets kind of sexy. You have Elijah Roy going to Seattle. Now, Seattle has Noah Fant still, but second-round draft capital, top 50 pick. He's a good pass-catching tight end out of Miami, so I think he's worthy of a back second, early third-round pick in rookie drafts as well. Who else we got here? We had, Harold Fannin goes to Cleveland, which it's a tough situation just because, Harold Fannin is such a good pass catcher, but they have David Njoku, obviously, and Njoku's not going anywhere. It's going to remind me a lot of the Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews situation, where it's like, we know Isaiah Likely's really good, but does it fucking matter? Like, maybe you get lucky and something breaks right where Isaiah Likely becomes a fantasy guy, but this is always the conundrum we're left with in Dynasty. It's like talent or situation. And sometimes talent trumps situation. And sometimes you're just sitting with Isaiah Likely on your bench for 3 years, hoping that he gets his break, And that's probably going to be the case for Harold Fannin, unless something happens to Njoku. But Fannin, I think, gives them a really, really good pass catching weapon behind David Njoku there. Unfortunately, it's not a great landing spot for him as a fantasy tight end. I think that was the last tight end drafted on day 2. Yeah, it was. Najee stonks through the floor. Chase Brown still alive. Yeah, Chase Brown was a winner. I thought, I'm not surprised at all that Cleveland didn't draft a running back. They did re-sign Zach Moss. They brought in Samaje Perine, and Chase Brown was a fucking stud for them last year. I think people are underrating, he was so good for them, and I don't really see a reason for them to target with their draft capital, with the amount of needs that this team has on defense. Using any draft capital on a running back after what Chase Brown did last year would be irresponsible. He's 210 pounds with a ton of athleticism. He can carry a very large workload, as we saw last year. So having a complimentary back like Zach Moss or Samaje Perine behind Chase Brown, I feel like is more than enough. So I'm not surprised they didn't go running back at all. That feels like the least needy of their spots right now. Feeling better or worse about holding late 2025 firsts at this point? Good question. I mean, I think rookie drafts can really shake up in a lot of different ways. Where I think it's great for you is if you need a tight end, I think you'll be able to walk away with Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland. If you're a quarterback needy team, this was not a good draft for you. But I think like most years, you have a really, really solid set of wide receivers that have a good blend of upside and ceiling and floor and potential for you. At that 111 to 203 area, you're getting guys like Tre Harris, and you're getting guys like Jayden Higgins, and you're getting guys like Kaleb Johnson, So it's like you have good picks there. So I don't feel like there's a massive tier drop off there where I don't feel great about the guys in that spot. And I think you'll have spots where you can get like Matthew Golden there, first round wide receivers, maybe Emeka Ibuka if people aren't as high on the landing spot as I am, you know? So I think it's a very typical year for the late first where I'm not shying away from them whatsoever. I think you can pad your team with really good depth there. What else we got going on here? Who are the big fallers? Tyler Shough. We can talk a little bit about the quarterbacks here. Luther Burden goes 39th there. This weird landing, not weird landing spot. I get what they're doing. Obviously, they're trying to just make this fucking dynamo of an offense here. But there's too many good players in Chicago to have any fucking idea what's going to happen in fantasy, man. Like last year, we were doing the same thing in preseason. Remember? It was like, do we draft DJ Moore or Keenan Allen or Rome Odunze? And it turns out it was like pretty much DJ Moore, but like also Keenan and Rome had weeks, but like not really because the passing game didn't get it together. So I think this pick of Luther Burden moves him into the slot. We'll have Rome and we'll have DJ Moore on the outside. Colson Loveland running a lot of routes at tight end, but he's still going to be splitting time with Cole Kmet early on, and they might even use Cole Kmet in more running situations or blocking situations because you can't just tip your hand and say, okay, Loveland's on the field now. We know he's running a route. We know they're passing the ball. If he's not up to par with the blocking side of things, then that might take him a minute to develop into being able to play on all three downs. So it becomes messy right away, you know. And I tweeted this out. And you'll hear me talk about this again in the updated rookie rankings video, which will go live on the channel later today. But really, unless Kaleb develops into a 4,500, 4,700 yard annual passer, there's going to be multiple receivers in Chicago that disappoint, statistically speaking, right? Like not everybody can be a 1,200 yard receiver. Everybody loves Luther Burden, and they love Colson Loveland, and they love Rome Odunze, and we love DJ Moore. Realistically, two of them, year in and year out, are probably going to be 600 to 900, 850 yard receivers. And that's not great for fantasy. You know, you don't want to spend a lot of draft capital on that. And it's going to be very tough to predict it, which makes all of them a little bit risky. Like one or two of them at the end of the year, when we look back, will probably have really good years, but you need to bake in a little bit of risk without knowing which they're going to be. And maybe you want to lean more into this class because we do have Ben Johnson coming in immediately saying, we're taking Loveland, we're taking Luther Burden. But Rome Odunze was a top 10 pick for them last year. And DJ Moore was the best producer for them last year. And Kaleb clearly has chemistry with him. So, you know, there are a lot of moving parts there. But I do think there needs to be a little bit of risk baked in to these guys because of the sheer target competition and because they haven't figured it out yet. Like this Chicago Bears passing offense did not come close to figuring it out last year. They were a mess most times that they were on the field. Like statistically, you can look back and say, you know, there were good things to glean from it. And sure, Kaleb progressed, but they were so far from clicking. And a lot of that had to do with the coaching situation. I get it, but they still need to figure that out before things start like really working for them. Hank, let's see. Did the Bears get it back? No, they did not. I would like Cam Scatabo to go to the Bears. Like I like Dylan Sampson a lot, but I don't know that I like the Chicago landing spot for him because I do think there's a little bit of overlap with skill set with him and DeAndre Swift. I want a bigger back. I want a Cam Scatabo, someone who could actually just take over all three downs to go to Chicago. Does the Giants not drafting an early running back significantly boost Tyrone Tracy's value? I would say he's a winner, but I also, again, like with these teams that have so many holes in their lineup, you shouldn't really expect them to be attacking a position like the running back position. They need to fill up so many more holes on their team. So I guess the way that I would ask this back to you is them not drafting a running back, does it boost Tyrone Tracy? You feel better about him, but if in round 4 comes and the Giants go out and draft Dylan Sampson or Cam Scatabo, then I don't feel that good. Like you could almost project or think about what happens in the future to see how you actually feel about that situation. And if Cam Scatabo is a 4th round pick for the Giants, I don't feel as good about Tyrone Tracy. You got to remember, Tyrone Tracy a year ago was a 5th round pick and he became the starter. So who's to say that can't happen again? What do you think of the Chargers wide receiver Tre Harris? I mean, this was one of my favorite pick fits in the entire draft. Tre Harris, I think, 55th overall here to the Chargers. Perfect pairing with Ladd McConkey's skill set. Harris will play boundary. He'll play outside. He can separate on the outside. He can make plays with the ball in his hands after the catch. Really, really, really strong after the catch, despite having a really solid frame. Tre Harris, I genuinely would not fault people for taking him at the back of the first round. I think in my rookie rankings that I just posted on Twitter, what the fuck is it? Here we go. That looks weird. Sorry, I'm trying to find a spot for this. Yeah, it looks pretty okay. So, as you can see right here, I have Tre Harris at the 112, Kaleb Johnson at the 201, but I did have a follow-up tweet here that said, guys I consider in the same tier and don't actually have a strong preference between, and one of them I named was Tre Harris and Kaleb Johnson. So that tier right there. So I had the Ohio State tier of Judkins, Henderson, and Buka. And when you make rankings, this is the way numbers work. I have to put someone ahead of someone, but those tiers to me don't have a difference. I would be, if I had 2 drafts, I would take one in one and one in the other. And depending on your team breakup, again, dynasty settings for your league, I would go one way or the other. So I have Tre Harris and Kaleb Johnson here at the turn. So as you could see, yeah, very high in the landing spot. Love the draft capital. And again, like, it's very easy to forget past drafts and like some guys we liked, some guys we didn't. You know, that spot where Tre Harris went is where DK Metcalf went. You know, AJ Brown was a second-round pick. And being a second-round pick, like, you have question marks, of course. But all of a sudden, it's very easy to see why they shoot up in value here, right? And why a guy like Tre Harris, like DK Metcalf, second-round pick, end of second round, and people had concerns, like, he can only run routes on the right side of the field. A year later, 2 years later, there were people that had him as the wide receiver 1 overall in Dynasty. This shit happens quickly, man. This shit happens quickly. AJ Brown, like, elite Dynasty wide receiver as soon as he goes to Philly, and even before that. You know what I mean? Like, these things happen quickly just because they got second or third round draft capital. Once they produce at an elite level, like, that's it. Like, you got your guy, you know? Like, the rankings in Dynasty, they change quickly, man. Shit happens quick. So I love the fit. Is Kaleb a fit for what Pittsburgh likes to do? Yeah, I thought this was another fucking phenomenal scheme fit. A lot of people had concerns about Kaleb Johnson going into the NFL because there would be certain offenses where his running style did not fit. Pittsburgh was not one of them. Pittsburgh was one where the scheme fit is perfect for a guy like Kaleb Johnson. And I was listening to a few different pieces of content this morning from Pittsburgh Steelers beat reporters that are obviously very close to the team and very in touch. They all love the pick. They think Kaleb Johnson pretty much slots right into the 1A to Jaylen Warren's 1B. Johnson won't play all 3 downs, most likely. It will be some split of Warren and Kenneth Gainwell playing in obvious passing situations. I think Kaleb is a fine receiver. I think he has natural hands, but that doesn't always mean that you're going to be a running back that plays all 3 downs. You know, when you have a guy like Jaylen Warren who's really good on third downs and does give you a level of explosiveness to your ground game that Kaleb probably doesn't, like, there's going to be a committee there for sure. But love the fit for Kaleb Johnson there. Gonna try to get my hands on him in rookie drafts for show. And I think we talked about RJ Harvey too. And one of the other concerns with a guy like RJ Harvey, I would say, just to throw this in here, just to throw a little water on his upside here, is like RJ Harvey's not a good pass blocking back by any stretch of the imagination. He's very explosive and can be used, again, in that like Joker role, can be used in fun screen situations for Denver for sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken off the field in short yardage situations, on the goal line, in any like third and long distance situations that aren't obvious, pass blocking situations, or there are obvious pass blocking situations where they're going to need him back there because he's not great with that, especially at 205 pounds. If I have Bowers, do I skip over Warren, Loveland, even if they're the best available? Yeah, probably. Unless your league is like super tight end premium, and you could throw him into your flex spot. But even then, I'm probably gonna jump over those guys if you have Bowers. Cowboys still need a running back and a wide receiver at this point. Yeah, I agree. I think they're doing a good job with their draft so far. I like Tyler Booker. I like the defensive end who fell to them in the second round, Donovan Azaruka. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but he was widely looked at as a possible first-round pick, so I think they got good value on that pick. But yeah, they definitely need to address the skill position players. I am really curious if they would have taken Kaleb Johnson with their next pick. I think they might be a landing spot for Sampson or Cam Scatterbo. I think both of those guys make sense for Dallas. But Jerry Jones has also come out and been like, we did a really good job in free agency signing Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. And to be fair, they had a lot of success with Rico Dowdle last year. So if that's their mindset, you could look at the Cowboys and maybe they're like scarred from the Zeke contract. Maybe they're like, you know what, giving a running back serious draft capital, serious money is just not how we want to build our team anymore. We saw how poorly it worked out for Zeke and that contract. So it's like we immediately replace him with Tony Pollard and he plays really well. Then we immediately replace him with Rico Dowdle and he plays really well. Maybe they're just progressing a little bit and realizing that they can kind of get this value or this production at the running back position without investing heavily into it. What else we got here? Anyone else that was drafted that we want to talk about? Yeah, love the Tre Harris pick. Jack Besh is a cool pick for the Raiders. I think he's kind of similar to Jacoby Myers, just like go over the middle of the field and fuck somebody up, and you're not going to drop the ball. It's a good pick. Mike Green again, insane value for the Ravens there. Trey Amos of Washington was a phenomenal pick for them as well. Andrew Makuba, great pick for Philly. What else we got here? Will Johnson also fell to Arizona, which was funny. Obviously, teams had concerns about his knee. I don't know if you guys like followed draft prospects last year, but prior to the college season in 2024 starting, if you looked at basically any mock draft, right? People like to do mock drafts in like August before the season starts. Will Johnson was consistently mocked as like the 101. Will Johnson was looked at as a player that could be the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. And then he had a down year. And then things didn't break well for him. He had a down year. People have knee concerns for him. And a lot of people mocked Will Johnson to Arizona in the first round. So that felt like they're probably fucking ecstatic about that pick. He plays a really, really good zone coverage style of defense, which fits Arizona's scheme really, really well. So that was a cool pick for them. I saw Cody out here. He wants some Kyle Williams propaganda. I got you, dog. Kyle Williams, loved this pick for New England. He's another one on this ranking that I have at the 206. That's serious draft capital there. And I said in my post tweet, another tiering here that I don't necessarily have a strong preference on were Kyle Williams and Jaylen Nowell right next to each other. They're kind of similar players to me, both like unbelievably legit speed on the football field stretchers. Kyle Williams, I think, is probably more suited to play outside and Jaylen Nowell more in the slot. But Kyle Williams, yeah, I love that pick by New England. Gives Drake May another pass catcher out there to pair with Stephon Diggs. Yeah, just really, really good profile. Can fly on the side of the field. So love me some Kyle Williams stains. Yeah, Jaylen Nowell and Jayden Higgins got to be fucking hyped. That's so cool. Just from like just from a human standpoint, like they're probably fucking homies. They're probably best friends. They probably live together. And now they both get drafted by Houston. Both day 2 picks, both in the same receiver room. Like, that's really cool. That's the coolest shit I ever done seen. Savion Williams, like, Green Bay, like, why are we lighting a 3rd-round pick on fire? You have an extremely crowded receiver room already. And then you just took Matthew Golden with your 1st-round pick. You have good capital in the 3rd round, and then you use it on Savion Williams, man. What are we doing? What are we doing? Jalen Milroe goes to Seattle. Cool landing spot. You know, they'll need a quarterback in like 2 to 3 years. Hopefully we can see him progress. Dylan Gabriel going to Cleveland instead of Shedeur is insane, but yeah, what are you? What else is going on? Is Henderson with Stevenson still in New England that much higher than Kaleb Johnson for you? Yeah, I mean, I showed my rankings. I have Henderson he's in that 106 to 108 range, and then Kaleb Johnson's in the 112 to 201. So he's on the borderline flip here. But listen, I really like Kaleb Johnson. So if you have a really strong feeling about Johnson, I would have no problem with you jumping up into like the tight end tier or right underneath the Ohio State tier if you wanted to. But I'm not personally going to rank him up there, I don't think. Savion is RB2 for Green Bay. I really don't have a good argument against that. That's probably like his best role. Could the Packers be trading someone else away? I mean, yeah, listen, like Christian Watson's going to be out for probably a decent portion of the year. Romeo Doubs is probably on his last year of his contract. Dontavion Wicks is a great separator, but it's probably hard to trust him at this point because he drops so many balls. So, like, I guess I get it, but also I don't know. I don't know. They've invested a lot of draft capital in wide receivers over the last like 3 or 4 years. Think about it. You have Christian Watson with, I think, the 34th pick overall. Jayden Reed was a second-round pick. Luke Musgrave, second-round pick. Tucker Kraft, I think he was a fourth-round pick, maybe a third-round pick. Then you have Matthew Golden this year, first-round pick. And then again, Savion Williams, third-round pick. So they are investing heavily into the wide receiver position. Pat Bryant, didn't know much about him before last night. Yeah, I'm not like overly familiar with his game. He does have a stylistic comp to like Tim Patrick. So I think the fit in Denver makes sense. He's not an overly athletic wide receiver by any stretch of the imagination. He is, I think he's like 205, ran like a 4.6 40. Yeah, 6'2", 205, 4.6 40. Not very athletic. Better in zone, like his best comp here, as you could see, Kadar Hodge, but like Tim Patrick type. So they need other guys to be able to catch the ball in Denver. So I guess it's like a pretty good landing spot from an opportunity standpoint, but him as a player doesn't really present a ton of upside here. Tyler Shough gives me big Brandon Whedon vibes. Yeah, I mean, listen, they thought Shough was their guy. People like Shough from an arm talent standpoint. He's obviously extremely fucking old. One of the craziest storylines that came out last night is Tyler Shough and Juwan Johnson are reuniting because they actually played together in college. Juwan Johnson is entering his 6th year in the NFL. That is fucking insane. Yeah, Shough started at Oregon, went to Texas Tech, went to Louisville. He's been all over the place. People like his arm, but he also ran at 4.6 340, which is really good. They considered him their guy, though. So, like, you know, if he steps on the field, his value is going to spike in Dynasty. If he looks kind of good, his value is going to spike. I will say, shout out to me, Codeine. I don't know if you remember this last year. In Go Fade Me, I traded Spencer Rattler to Vatch for his first start for Khalil Shakir and a 3rd-round pick. That might have been one of the better trades I've made in Dynasty. Shout out to you. Shout out to me. I feel like most of these day 3 running backs will jump up in the rankings. Yeah, I mean, like, if we put up my rankings here, let's play a little bit of a game. Like, if Scatabo, if Dylan Sampson go to good landing spots, I would be fine with them all the way up here in like the 208, 209, 210 range for show. I would like any analysis on Isaac TeSlaa. Okay, so TeSlaa is kind of still like a little bit learning the wide receiver position, and he's an incredibly athletic wide receiver that needs to develop still. His like route running is not there, but he's an incredible athletic specimen. 6'4", 215. I mean, look at these numbers here on the right side. 4.43 40-yard dash, speed score, burst score. Did it in Arkansas. SEC, college dominator, breakout age, all that. Will need to develop as a separator for sure. And the draft capital is good. It's a little bit of a weird landing spot with Detroit because what I think he'll probably do best is play like a power slot role, but obviously Amon-Ra is there. So I don't know what the year one role is for him at all. Maybe it's more indicative of Jameson Williams' future. I would be shocked. There's no way they're trading Jameson Williams. I think that would be a huge downgrade to their offense right now. But maybe it speaks to the future of Jameson Williams and them not extending him after the contract because of off-the-field concerns and stuff like that. So TeSlaa, I think he's worth taking a shot on in rookie drafts for sure. Oh, he wasn't in my rankings because they did not have him in where I did my rankings on Fantasy Pros. For some reason, it was the only rookie that was not in their database. So if I had to put Isaac TeSlaa in the rankings, he would be right here at the end of the second round. I would take Besh over him. I would likely take Ferguson over him. And then I think he might be right here at the 212. I'm surprised that Jalen Royals is still on the board. I agree. He'll be a good day 3 pick for somebody. Feel like Felton is going to fit into a wide receiver 4 or 5 return role. Year 1 in Minnesota. Yeah, that's kind of how I see it too. I think Felton is not much better, or he doesn't have much more upside than a role player. And they obviously have an insane group of receivers already with J. Jeff and Addison and Hawkinson. I mean, he could become the Jalen Naylor there, but for fantasy, what the fuck does that mean, you know? Wouldn't be shocked if the Pats grab Royal to load the room and see who's out. Oh, I forgot to turn the fan on my camera. Give me a sec. Yeah, I mean that would be really interesting after they did the exact same thing last year with Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. TeSlaa might be a Yoshi Voss type. That's a very, very, very fucking good comp. Really like that, Peerless. Selling Olave. No, Olave to me, I actually made a video a couple weeks ago where Olave felt like a buy to me. I am optimistic still because they haven't brought in any wide receiver help or haven't really targeted anyone that's going to take away target competition from him. So, Nick, Fade the Fetal, trade Rachaad White. You send me a trade for Rachaad? You want Rachaad? You want the GOAT? You want the GOAT? You going to come correct, motherfucker. As a fellow Falcons fan, how are we feeling about this year's draft so far? I mean, how can we not be fucking hyped? How can we not be fucking hyped about finally getting some goddamn pass rush? That has been our top need for 10 years. It's been our top need for legitimately 10 fucking years, and we finally addressed it. So, yes, we paid the price. We paid a price to get back into the first round. I don't care. How you doing? I wish we would have traded back into the second and grabbed Mike Green. Fuck it. Fuck it. Thoughts on Kyle Montague? I actually don't even know who that is. He's a running back out of Rutgers. He ran a 4.6, 2.11. Good production. All right, you gave me someone to look into. Very little receiving production here. I'll check him out. I don't know much about him, though. I'm going to keep it a stack with you. Stacker stain. Are Tank Dell, Rashid Shaheed, Demario Douglas, and Christian Watson just dust now? Yeah, I mean, Tank Dell, yeah, this says a lot about Tank Dell for sure. I mean, he's going to be out for the next year with the injury. Who knows if he ever comes back as the same player. Rashid Shaheed, again, same way I feel about Olave. We don't know what Tyler Shough is. We really don't. So to just project the quarterback situation feels a little bit scandalous to me. So Shaheed doesn't really take a value hit to me. Demario Douglas, I mean, listen, anytime you're bringing in other pass catchers, yeah, it could be a problem. He'll still probably be the slot receiver. I still think like Diggs will play the outside, honestly, for the most part. and you pair that with either Kyle Williams or whoever, Jalen Polk or Keyshawn Butte, whoever they like out there. But yeah, it's not great for Douglas. I mean, it's not even like it's the target competition is bad for Douglas. But listen, if Douglas was going to hit, it was probably going to be last year. The fact that he didn't really have the breakout feels like, we kind of just know what he is now at this point. Quinshon Watson just now. Yeah, Quinshon Watson, he's not in a good spot either. Trace, have you talked about? Yeah, I actually just talked about him like 5-6 minutes ago. Sorry. If you want to run back after the stream, he had his page pulled up on Player Profiler, so you'll be able to find it in the live stream probably rather quickly if you just scroll through. Do you think Judkins has higher year one production in Cleveland than he would have had elsewhere with how abysmal that passing game is going to be? Yeah, I mean, listen, the opportunity is going to be there. I do worry about the situation for sure. We don't know what the quarterback situation is. I don't think their offensive line is that good anymore either. We got used to them having a really good offensive line, and it feels like it's not that good anymore. So I do have hesitations about what his efficiency could be. But at the same time, if he's going to play a 3-down role and be a complete workhorse here, then I think he's going to have relatively good production. Like even like Najee Harris in Pittsburgh, like year one and then into year two, even when his receptions dropped, it's like bad offensive line, but still getting enough volume that he's like an impact player in fantasy. But yeah, I think those are legitimate concerns. And if you wanted to take Henderson over Judkins, I've got no problem with that. New York basketball is horrendous to watch. Brunson flops way too much. Well, Brunson's so fucking good that all the defenses double team him and harass him, and they put their best players on him, and they're assaulting him all game. So I get it. It's a bad product when players are flopping, but every player in the NBA fucking flops. And when you get as much defensive attention as Brunson does, like you're getting harassed. All right, so fuck it. But I will say, New York basketball, like. We have a bunch of good players that outside of Brunson that fade away when we need them often. Like Mikal Bridges, I knew when we fucking got him early on that was going to be a woeded move. Us getting rid of Hartenstein was like devastating. Cat's great, obviously, but like he has his ups and downs, and he's not a player that's going to win you a championship by himself. So like we have a lot of really good players that don't play really well when we need them to all the time. So don't love what we've seen in this first series. What's up, MB? How you down? What else? Kaleb Johnson or Higgins, Superflex, tight end premium at 110, 12 team. Yeah, I got Johnson. I got Kaleb Johnson ranked higher than Jayden Higgins right now. What is your advice for taking best available player at the 103 in a one quarterback versus team need? Cam Ward will be off the board or not a top 3 pick, so it's going to go Genty and then okay, so you're basically asking like you are an RB needy team. You're probably thinking that Johnson or Omarion Hampton and Genty go off. So you're at the 103, and it's like, do I take the best player available or do I take team need? So you're basically saying, like, would I take Henderson or Judkins over a Tet McMillan or a Travis Hunter? Personally, I wouldn't do that. But if you want to get your running back, I bet there are people that would be a very clear spot to look for a trade back. See if you can move from the 103 down to the 105, 106, and then pick up a second as well. So go like 103 for the 105 and the 26 or something like that. That's something I'd probably be willing to do if someone is high on Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan. But there are a decent amount of running backs. So if you get into that 105 to 107, 108 range, you'll probably be able to get one of Henderson, Judkins, Kaleb Johnson, or something like that. What becomes of Nick Chubb? I mean, what became of him last year is the same thing. Lions had horrible picks. Yeah, I mean, I think that's we're way too early to say that. I also think that they should probably be given the benefit of the doubt on whether or not they make good draft picks, given how many good draft picks they've made recently. Like, 2 years ago, everyone called the Lions draft horrendous when they took Gibbs and Jack Campbell and fucking whatever. And they were good. So us being able to grade a draft right now is ridiculous because we have no idea how these players are going to pan out. Where do you think this dynasty class ranks in depth compared to others? Ooh, good question. Honestly, it feels pretty standard. It really does feel pretty standard where like by the time you hit 205, 206, you're out of that first round range. You're looking at those early to mid second round receivers. I'm thinking back to last year, the 205 to 209, 10, 11 range is where you started to hit those Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Legette. So better draft capital, but the running back position was gross. So you got right into like the Blake Corums, the Jalen Wrights, the Braylon Allens in this spot. So I would say it's pretty typical. It's not great. I wouldn't say it's amazing by any means. And a lot of that I would say has to do with it being a weak quarterback class because think about last year. If you put last year's QB class into this year, you're now getting guys like Jayden Higgins and Luther Burden at like the 211, 212. Because you have, 5-6 first-round quarterbacks, those guys go super high in super flex leagues, which push down all the other skill players. So it's average, and most of it happened because of the lack of quarterbacks in this class. B-Rad, thank you for the super chat, man. Appreciate all your hard work. The wife and I used your draft guide last year in our big money league. We ended up facing each other for the chip. Don't ask one. That's amazing. Appreciate you. What are the Steelers doing about quarterback? I don't know. I'd have to imagine the way that they're operating, they have put all of their eggs into the Aaron Rodgers basket, and they feel confident that that's going to happen. And as the time is progressing and the quarterback carousel is played out the way it has, this is feeling more and more and more and more and more like Aaron Rodgers has all the leverage in the world, and he's in the position that he wants to be. And I think because he's in that position, that feels like because he's getting what he wants, it's like it's probably leaning towards playing again in Pittsburgh. I like the situation too, man. Mike Tomlin, you got DK and George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth. You've got an offensive line they've invested heavily in. Now you add Kaleb Johnson to the backfield. So if I had to guess, the Pittsburgh Steelers are kind of out leveraged right now because they don't have a quarterback, but are probably putting a lot of eggs into the Rodgers basket. If you are drafting today, where are you putting Sanders? I mean, I'm not drafting him without knowing where he goes. Any interest in Jalen Milroe late round 2 in a Superflex draft? I mean, you got my rankings right here, and he is the 301 for me. But again, it's not like I have a super hard stance on taking Harold Fannin Jr. over Milroe, and I probably honestly wouldn't even do that if I redid these right now. In this second, I would take him over Fannin. So yeah, he's back of the second for me. The time, what is the right time? Why did you do that? Why did you ask it like this? The time, what is the right time to start Dynasty League? I think any time between when the NFL draft ends and the summer is great. I think once you know the rookie landing spots, once you know for the most part free agency and how that played out, I will say there's probably still like Aaron Rodgers is a missing piece here that would fuck up the draft a little bit. But outside that, I think, this week to any time in the summers is the right time to do a Dynasty startup draft. Would you take Loveland or Warren at the 106 with 2-point tight end premium? I mean, 2-point tight end premium is pretty fucking serious. And at that point, yeah, I would probably think about taking them all the way up at that 105, 106 range for show. Because at that point, like, if it's 2 tight end premium, I'll assume that it's PPR. And I do think a guy like Judkins, who's a fine pass catcher, takes a little bit of a ding in full PPR. And with tight ends and 2-point premium, like those guys will be really good flex plays too. So even if they don't end up being Travis Kelce, like they're probably still going to average, 12 points per game. If you're averaging 4 for 50, I mean that's 13 points a game, and I would assume that these guys are probably going to be in that statistical range, if not better, within a couple of years. So yeah, that's a massive boost to them for sure. Thoughts on Jonathan Brooks? Yeah, tough scene. Tough scene. Would not buy. That's what I'll put it at. How much further can Shedeur slide? Yeah, I mean, this was the very first thing I talked about on the video, and I talked about it for about 10 minutes. So if you're interested, I would just slide back earlier on in the video and read that. But ultimately, I think he can slide far. I think if I had to guess, he would get picked by a team that has a very established quarterback one, so they don't have to deal with all the bullshit of when is Shedeur going to get onto the field, and also now you have a talented backup quarterback. Where's the biggest teardrop in the draft positions this year? Very good question. Well, Genty is a tier by himself, in my opinion. Then I think you have a tier of 4 players here of Omarion Hampton. I realize you guys cannot see my mouse, huh? You have a tier of, there we go. You have a tier of Omarion Hampton down to Tet probably. That's a tier. I think depending on how tight end needy you are, I think you can make the case with Judkins down to Loveland as a tier. And maybe including Golden in there. But I probably feel better about Golden being in the tier of Golden, Tre Harris, Kaleb Johnson. And then we've got, I would say the biggest teardrop to me is probably right around this 201 mark from Kaleb Johnson down to like these next group of guys. And depending on how you feel about RJ Harvey, maybe you want to throw him in there. But Higgins, Dart, Burden, Kyle Williams, Jalen Nowell feel definitely like a tier below the rest of these guys up here. And I feel like that's pretty typical. I feel like that's pretty typical for rookie drafts. Like once you get to like the 202, 203, you do tend to see a large tier drop off. And I think that's what we saw last year too. That's around where like you went from like Ladd McConkey to Jalen Polk, you know? All right, we're over 50 minutes. I think I'm gonna tap out here. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys for the questions. Thank you guys for the engagement. We just cracked over 1,000 people in the live stream. That's pretty cool. But yeah, you can go follow me on Twitter. I will post my updated rankings after day 3 as well up on here. But if you need them for your rookie drafts, like by tomorrow, I don't imagine too much is going to change after day 3. This is a pretty good starting point for you. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Later today, I will be going through these rookie rankings more in depth in a different video. It'll probably be up by like noon, I would say. So go check that out. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for hanging out. Shout out you. Shout out me. Shout out to Falcons. Shout out Miss Pruden. Smoochies.